All right, hello and welcome everyone. So it's finally time to talk about Caliban. We are post hotfix now with some AI fixes for his drones and such. And it's time to discuss how much better Caliban is, let's frame it that way. And he is better than he was. Granted, he was the worst Warframe in the game, competing pretty hard with Limbo. But he is better than he was. With that, you'll notice I only have one shard in him, which is an energy max shard. Of note, this is a pity shard because his energy max is dreadful, but also he doesn't really want to run Prime Flow. So I've given him one energy max shard just to make him a little bit more comfortable to play as he has to spam a lot. So for that, I would not suggest anyone do this. But if you have a blue Tau sitting around, you can. Besides that, we've tried a lot of different things on him. The current build on him is this, which basically allows you to get the full armor strip, have a decent range for his new 2, and also have enough duration and strength to use Nourish very well. And of course, we're using Energy Nexus so that we can be kept up on energy at pretty much all the time. And we can still summon his 3 and do all that business. So this is a very high strength build. Range is not super needed, as his 2 actually has quite considerable range. Just with the 145, we're at 36 meters, and I would say his 2 is also overall probably the ability that got improved most in his kit. As you can see in the little example video here, enemies just get like minorly lifted. They don't just fly off to space when you use it anymore, and it's very easy to get headshots on them, and also the damage vulnerability is just much more usable in this state, because you can get headshots and so on and so forth. That being said, you still have to cast this ability a whole lot if you're going to use it on multiple different groups, but that's fine. It's at least just a general usable ability. His 1, which we're not going to show in this video because all of these are different testing with different things. We did Breach Surge, Roar, Eclipse, all kinds of different things to try and figure out what was best on him, and just came to the conclusion that we're using Nourish. Basically, his 1 just lets him spin through enemies, and he'll get shields back, he'll get some energy back. And it's like a decent resourcing ability, but it's much worse than Nourish, which is also going to give us a very large increase to damage and give us viral. So kind of just loses out to Nourish in that way. And it also lost out to Roar and pretty much everything else we put over that slot. And I didn't feel like it was right, probably, to get rid of Lethal Progeny, which is also quite new. So we have Conculus, Orthulus, and Sumulus now, each of which theoretically do something different. I'm just going to summon each of them now and show kind of what they do. So first and foremost, we have the Sumulist. These guys just like shoot out these little dudes that draw a ton of aggro and generate shields for everyone that is near them. You can see I'm up to like 3,000 shields with them out and about. And these guys are just a distraction. This is the purely defensive version of Caliban's 3. But all of them are pretty much purely defensive. The other are the melee dudes. These guys will go up and whack dudes in the face for me, bad damage. Honestly, bad damage. They are a little bit smarter now with the hotfix, but they don't do very good damage. They also will take your 4, which is still Fusion Strike, and they will cast copies of it that do 50% of the damage. Unfortunately, as we'll get to, your 4 doesn't really do damage. Even up at like 400% strength, it can't really kill heavy units and things except for at pitiable low level. So you're pretty much never going to be using this for damage output, and it is just an armor strip. As many people like to tell me, he's supposed to be a weapons platform. For me personally, I don't see how the giant sentient exploding lasers that get copied with each of your summons is a weapons platform ability, or supposed to be, especially one that makes you invincible and locks you in place. But sure, let's go with that. It's the reason I've given him Nourish, so that my weapons can do all the work, because they're going to have to anyway. And then our final summon is the Orthulus, which are these gun guys. These guys, post-patch recently, are a little bit better. They shoot a little bit more, but they're really clunky and often will just hit terrain whenever they're trying to hit enemies in many maps. And their damage output is also just far too slow. You're just going to end up shooting everyone yourself anyway. So most of the time, you're just going to hang out on the Sumulist. And if you need to strip an enemy's armor, just the 1 beam is fine. It'll do okay for that. And then you'll just keep Nourish up and use your 2 wave to make enemies more vulnerable. And that's pretty much what's gonna go down on Caliban. For this, just to make his stuff as strong as is reasonable, I do have Molt augmented to push us up to 283% strength, and we also have Arcane Steadfast because he can be very, very spammy with needing Sentient Wrath on most enemies in order to really make any use of his kit, and with his abilities not being particularly cheap, especially Fusion Strike. Though, of course, it is worth noting that Nourish plus Energy Nexus is the only thing making us not really need efficiency on this build. And also, we don't cast Fusion Strike that much because it's only an armor strip that costs way too much energy and takes way too long to use, so it's usually more economical to just shoot whatever you are looking at. Other than that, we are on primed redirection, and, like, that's fine. He still doesn't regenerate shields if his shields get broken, no matter how many of his summons are around him, because his shields breaking make all of them stop giving you shields, which means it's very easy to kill you. I really would have liked that to be instead, that your summons, like, sacrifice themselves to give you shields whenever your shields break or something, so that they're, like, basically a bunch of copies of Guardian floating around. That would have been way, way better, because it's actual real protection instead of kind of not. But instead of that, we're using primed redirection to have, you know, kind of a bunch of shields that can hopefully tank through enough things. And then otherwise, it's just a balance of stats. It's like enough range to use our abilities in a good way, enough duration to have our abilities stick around for a while, and enough strength to make things somewhat usable. You can't tell, I'm not particularly enthused by this rework. It's fine and serviceable, but in terms of does it do anything, we'll just pause the AI here to show. So this is our Conculus, summon our Conculus, give them the buff, give all enemies vulnerability to damage, use R4. And you can see that even the butchers and such are surviving. And we can, you know, spam cast this very expensive ability, and eventually somebody will die. It's bad. It's just much, much worse than shooting a halfway decent weapon, and you're using every ability in your arsenal to kind of do so. And it's just not worth doing. Like, I can understand why people think that he's just a weapons platform, because any given decent weapon is just better than using all of his abilities like this. You're better off just slapping Nourish on and shooting everyone, and being the nice-looking Warframe with his new skin. But that's kind of all there is to it. And I'm going to be honest, we're going to go do the Steel Path test, but it's going to be a lot of me shooting people with the Latron and also the Sicarus, which is now fixed, which is probably going to be much more interesting, because the Sicarus is fixed now. The build is this, for those of you that are going to get this as actual value out of this video. And it's really, really good still, even in its fixed state, which is phenomenal news. Other than that, we're just on Worm with the Tazcore. Worm's giving us weapon buffs and such, and also he's going to be freezing enemies and things to help try and protect Caliban a bit, as he's pretty easy to kill. But that's going to be what's up. Let's go to the Steel Path. All right, here we go. In we go. Let's get this over with. I really wish the Caliban was better. Also, yeah, new Baruch video will be soon, but like no one's talking about Baruch and people keep asking about Caliban. So unfortunately, we gotta make the this Warframe could be a lot better video. Go with the Sumulist. Oops, there we go. Throw this out. Charge my Incarnate. Just do Latron things. These guys are a distraction. And to be fair, they are a pretty decent distraction. Look, my 2 totally did something. Well, these guys sometimes effectively block my shots. We'll say sometimes that does happen where, like, some of your summons will get stuck somewhere and, like, they don't really do, like, decent damage to enemies. Also, another thing about the build, hey, if you want to put more Forma in him for PSF, it's definitely correct to do so. I wasn't going to waste more Forma on doing that. Because, like, we've been talking about this a lot on stream, and there's been plenty of testing with Caliban on stream, and using him a bunch. But, there's not, like, any compelling reason to use him as a weapons platform. Like, even if we, like, just say, oh, sure, yeah, he was supposed to be a weapons platform or whatever, like, we can say that, but then in that category, he is very poor. Like, he's not very good at that. Which is, like, where things break down even more. Like, his 2 is, like, a decent damage vulnerability. That, like, you have to cast really, really constantly to have it be effective on a lot of enemies. And, like, he can strip armor, sure, yeah. But, like, you know, that's, like, a pretty rare, like, harder target. Like, you'll use it on Acolytes and stuff. But other than that, like, you know, most enemies, you're just going to use a weapon that's going to kill them. Because armor stripping was, you know, just recently made way less important. So, yeah. His 2 is a decent damage vulnerability, less than Ureli's 1. Okay, yeah, but no one... You gotta know, nobody was willing to admit that Ureli's pretty good now. Nobody's willing to admit that. People don't wanna have that conversation. Oh, also, the Icarus, which is going to be way more interesting, charges really fast, as you can see. Really effective. Oh, I forgot to turn Caliban's abilities back on. That's fine. You can see, as you can see, it doesn't matter much. You'll hardly even know they're there. Yeah, Icarus is still doing quite fine. Also, hey, everybody over on YouTube, here's a good question for the YouTube comments. Do you guys like, is this damage display better? Numbers are a little smaller. They're also the compact numbers. So it does like 9K instead of listing out 9,000. Also, Twitch chat, do you guys like this? Is it good? Might make the bitrate a little better in certain situations, too. Summon these guys back out. Yeah, the Icarus, I mean, I think very clearly is doing just fine. There we go, recharged. Like, does it do infinity billion damage? No. Does it do a huge amount and charge extremely fast? Absolutely. Does it also have, like, a really solid amount of incarnate ammo? Also, yes. Didn't even have Nourish back on. Oh, also, Caliban's 2, in terms of notable things for it, it does work on Demolus, so that's a thing. Does not work on, say, like Torment here, for example. But his 2, well, his 2 does not lift Torment. The damage vulnerability does work. I should be clear. Wait, really? Yeah, his 2 does work on Demolus, so that's not actually bad. His 2 is definitely the most improved, like, overall thing in his kit. Like, for sure. Like, no debate. Yeah, you can see, like, I mean, hey. Just bring good weapons, and it's fine. It's a thing you can say, and it is true. And if this looks like a good Warframe to you, then sure, I mean, fine. You are welcome to feel that way. But he's really not doing much here. I'm pretty much just using a gun. Roll back on the Latron because I love this thing. Hey, we're at the 700 kills in 6.5 minutes. And that means Caliban's cracked, right? It's definitely not that I'm shooting really good guns. Don't you also need to do whispers for Steel Path? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you have to do the full star chart clear for Steel Path. Install the Torrid. Wait a second, there's no Torrid. Yeah, I mean, hey, I took some, like, other weapons for this. Using the Torrid would have been, like, you know... We used the Torrid... Well, used is a strong word. We held the Torrid in the Hildren video, which means basically it was definitely all the Torrid in that video. Holding the Torrid is basically like the same thing. We all know that. But yeah, could I use Fusion Strike? Sure, I could, like, do this or whatever, and it'll kill, like, some really fodder enemies like Butchers and stuff. But I could also just shoot a gun. Like, I mean, like, that's a Lancer. What's the deal with that? It did half the health of a Lancer at 250-something% strength? Actually, no, we're at max stacks. We're at 283% strength. It does half the damage on a Lancer. Like, I don't know. That doesn't seem very, very right for the sentient exploding lasers. It's just some regular Grenier schmuck. And it's like, oh yeah, no, he's able to survive that. He's built alternatively. He's a Lancer. Hey, almost killed that trooper who was at half health already. Oh, the lingering field actually got him. I didn't need to recast my 4. As you can see there, Caliban's crazy. He can hold the Latron. But, man. Oh, man. I just wish everybody would stop calling any Warframe that's not very good a weapons platform. Even though they're also not good at that. Like, can he be used this way? Oh, yeah. This is clearly fine. Is he good at this? No. That's 10 minutes. We're at 1,000 kills. You guys know what that means. That means everything's fine. But yeah, he's serviceable. He's better than he was. But he's not bringing a lot to the table. He's mostly bringing some slightly better summons, the Summulist in particular, because the other two don't do damage. So you're pretty much just always going to chill out on the Summulist because he's way more useful. He can use Nourish, so that's a thing. And his 2 is pretty decent. It's a decent damage vulnerability that, like, lifts enemies. And, like, you know, it's okay. And he still has an armor strip, so there's that. But, yeah. Overall, like, middling. He has a deluxe, though. It's true. He looks way cooler now, which means he's better. How could I forget? Oh, I didn't take dexterity off the Latron? That's really funny. Also, I left the Latron in the mission because one of the guys stole it. Well, anyway. Yeah, we were gonna use hate a bunch in this mission, but we didn't, and I had dexterity on the Latron, but it's whatever. Yeah, he looks good while being mid as fuck. And whatever, I guess. But yeah, the Latron's incredible, so whatever. Anyway, that's gonna do it for the Caliban video. You know, he's probably not gonna get any more buffs for until maybe his prime or something. Maybe. But whatever. If you are using him as a weapons platform and enjoying him, please do. Much like Kome, I'm going to shelf this and go play all of the Warframes with their sick new augments. Oh, by the way, for the people who stayed to the end, Varuna is still really fucking good after the nerf to her augment. She's still incredible, so that's going to be just fine. All right, we're back from TennoCon, and the Streamathon is going to continue, but there will, of course, I will try and have there be videos as well as the Streamathon at the same time, if I can. Also, thank you to the $10 patrons, Athean, Alex Parnham, Arbiter Daydream, Benuven, Brutus Salazar, Canalafra, Clubworld 3, Dylan Dworsky, Athrain, Afan, James Harstone, JC4 Science, Josh, Lou Zanth, Malik X Williams, Mark Smith, Mikakel, Minty Ginja, Michta, Nerve, Ruby, Sanyu, Skur, Sharp247, Tamrielic Wastelander, Tester ZWP, The Coupon of Death, Tomeworm, Victor Palmer, Waifu Wars, Wildado1, and Zeraphir, and of course all of my other patrons as well. It is incredibly appreciated for all of your support. But yeah, we're gonna try and keep the videos a little bit more regular while the Streamathon continues. And of course, we do have a free to play through coming soon.